Dr. Kulikowski, I think we're ready to start.
Okay. Because I didn't see the video was going yet. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education regular public meeting online and live stream. This is September 10th, 2020. Mrs. Saradaki, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bauer,
Here.
Mrs. Boroff,
Here.
Mrs. Brody,
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Here.
Mrs. Suriani,
Here.
Mrs. Williams,
Here.
Mrs. Winkler,
Here.
Mr. Murray,
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Mrs. Saradaki. Will you please join me in the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to have a moment of silence as a September 11th remembrance. Tomorrow is September 11th. It'll be 19 years. Thank you, everyone. Prior to this meeting in public, we had our executive session. In executive session this evening, we discussed personnel agenda, the legal status report, and some new ad hoc committees that we are considering. We also have some additions to the agenda this evening. One, OBB, it's the SPF EA 2021 coaches. 4 BUS, related services, and 5 BUS, frontline education. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with those provisions, this act, the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the Times by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education, the district website, spfk12.org. This evening, we will have several instructional updates. The first of which will be the presentation of the district restart and recovery update. Dr. Mast.
Thank you, Dr. Kulikowski. I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see that? Thumbs up if you could see it. Okay.
If the writing gets smaller, can you zoom it to a larger size? It's fine now, but I don't know how small the printing's gonna.
I think if you put it in presentation mode, it'll take away the rest of your.
Okay. Okay, yep. Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight. I just wanted to reiterate what I have shared before, which is that I know the virtual opening of school creates many challenges. It is challenging for our students that want to be back in school with their teachers and friends. It is challenging for our teachers that want to be back in school with their students. It's challenging for the parents that want their children back in school and who are balancing so much. We are moving towards the safe opening of school as quickly as possible. The question is still being asked, why did we decide to pivot from the hybrid model to the virtual model? As superintendent, it is my job to provide the basic health and well-being of all of our students and staff. This is the foundation for opening our schools. Everyone that enters the doors of our schools must feel safe. When the governor gave school districts more time to ensure the safety, I knew we needed to use this time to address all concerns. We wanted to have an outside thorough review of our ventilation systems, room by room, unit by unit, in all our different spaces. The more we learned, the more questions we had. For example, how many air exchanges are in each classroom during a period, during a day? What is the airflow pattern? Are there classrooms, offices, isolation rooms that share air from one room to another? If we can't use the fans in classrooms that have fans, won't opening the windows and doors expose the same airflow that the fan would? What is the safest way to bring in fresh air? Knowing COVID can be spread through sewage, are our bathrooms properly ventilated? Where are they and how are all of our exhaust fans operational? Knowing that we can't have filtration in our system to capture pathogens, for example, MERV 13 or higher, or HEPA filters, what can we do to make it as safe as possible? Presently, we are engaged in a safety review of our ventilation systems. We have EI associates providing a review of all of our classrooms in every building and providing recommendations. We have an Environmental Safety Management Corporation providing air quality testing if the board approves that this evening. We will have more to report on at our September and October board meetings. Based on our findings, we will be opening schools as quickly as possible. So currently, the EI Associates has begun their review of our classrooms. They have more work to do, but the work has started. And the work along with the hygienist is Dr. Richard Lynch, and that work can begin very shortly. So we would have a report for our September meeting. I'd like to ask Mrs. Saradaki to give an update on what we're doing regarding our PPE and other equipment that will help keep our schools safe.
We already have in supplies currently. We have disposable face masks for staff and students as needed. We're assuming everyone will wear their own masks, but of course things can happen to those masks during the day, and we have supplies to replenish if somebody has a problem with their mask. We've ordered face shields, which we have now in stock, gloves, and sneeze guards for staff as needed. In some classrooms, in specific classrooms, we also have ones for student desks. We've ordered and have KN95 masks for the nursing staff. Hand sanitizers have been installed. Dispensers have been installed in every classroom and in hallways, and they all have hand sanitizer stocked in them. We additionally have additional stock of hand sanitizer. We also have jugs of hand sanitizer in some areas where students need to be monitored because of their age, or in areas where we have people that may be visiting and may need to use more than just what's on the wall. We have ordered additional electrostatic sprayers for cleaning the classes and building spaces. We have air purifiers for all rooms without windows and for the nurses' offices and the nurses' quiet rooms. We have signage which the principals are going to be posting around their schools, and we have floor decals for social distancing. We have ordered disinfectant spray bottles, and they have been filled and put in every classroom in the district and in the offices. These are spray disinfectant bottles, and we use them with paper towel. We also, one item that's not on the list that we have purchased is wipes for certain areas in the school, like copy machines and shared printers and things like that. All nurses' offices will have a separate isolation space for isolating students. In 2 schools where they don't have that, the isolation space will be a separate classroom that is near an exit for the student to leave the building. And I think that's what we have so far.
Thank you, Mrs. Saradaki. Now I would like to ask Dr. McGarry to bring us up on some of the work that we've been doing around instruction.
Sure, thank you. You've heard the saying that we're building the plane while we're still flying it. This is my 4th week here in the district, and the plane didn't even stop to pick me up. It just sort of scooped me on board. And so we've been doing a lot of work and spending a lot of time and energy and innovation in the area of professional development this summer. Beginning with our summer PD Academy, we had 936 registrants who engaged in close to 30 workshops, and many of these were actually multi-day workshops. Our focus was on building capacity to provide the kind of robust virtual program that we need in both the at-home and hybrid environments. We've had workshops on everything from conducting virtual class discussions, organizing Google Classroom for effective communication for elementary students, implementing modifications and accommodations for virtual learning success, and digital formative assessments using websites, apps, and extensions to monitor and provide feedback. This summer, we also hosted a cohort of 43 staff members who worked together to become Google certified educators. They've done a fantastic job, worked hard all summer, meeting weekly, and engaging in all of their required online trainings. And we'll be tapping into that new capacity that we have in the district in some ways going forward. And we already have tapped into that. We engaged a technology consultant this summer, Brianna Charles, who facilitated workshops for teachers, for instructional aides, for administrators on some of the key topics that were identified by our staff at the end of June. Things like G Suite extensions and Google Apps, Jamboard and Nearpod were a few of the topics that have been covered. Late in August, after I joined the plane, we had our administrative retreat. We spent a lot of time looking at social emotional learning and mindfulness, really sort of thinking about how do we put on our own oxygen masks before helping others to put theirs on, and also how to help others put their oxygen masks on as well. We developed instructional models during that time, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And we also initiated a book study of the book called How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, and had a wonderful consultant join us for that discussion. So September 1st through 3rd, we held our new teacher orientation. We provided our new teachers with just about everything SPF that we could in a virtual way. And they even got to take the much anticipated bus tour, which this year was a virtual bus tour through the township of Scotch Plains and the borough of Fanwood. This week, September 8th through 11th, thanks to the adjustment to our calendar, we've been engaging in 4 very robust professional development days. This morning, in fact, all of our staff, instructional aides and teachers and others were involved in a technology ed camp. We had 87 sessions this morning focused on technology, many of which were led by our own staff and many of our newly Google certified educators. We provided our teachers this week training on K-12 technology focused lessons to help everybody pre-K through 12th grade really use technology as well as they can. We provided social emotional learning teacher training on lessons that were developed for the start of the school year, as well as strategies for incorporating SEL into all that we do. We had training today on health and safety protocols, including protocols related to COVID-19. And we also, tomorrow, we'll be finishing up our week with a really great morning focused on diversity and equity. All of our administrative team will be engaging our staff in conversations on equity based upon 22 curated resources. These are articles, podcasts, or videos that are focused on issues of equity. And going into the year, our PD sessions will continue, including more on technology. On tonight's agenda is a motion to approve some auxiliary time for teachers to provide teacher-led coaching through the year. We'll be providing more PD on social emotional learning and more work in relation to diversity and equity. So a little bit about our instructional models that we've been developing over the summer. We have worked with our teachers, administrators, and others to really develop what we believe are very strong instructional models for children from pre-K through 12th grade. All of these will be based upon having direct live instruction for the whole class. But within each period, teachers are also expected to provide feedback and coaching to small groups or individual students. That again will be live. Also providing screen breaks throughout the day, because we know that we should be monitoring the number of hours students are spending on screens. We're also going to provide time when students are working independently for teachers to review student work, sometimes with them, and to prepare for the next component of the lesson. And then at the end of each lesson, we'll be bringing the whole class together again for an opportunity to share and close out that instructional period, and perhaps even engage in some formative assessment. The next couple slides provide some examples of the templates we've provided teachers to help them plan for this, which include in a period sort of what the activity is, the amount of time spent on that activity, what the teacher is doing in that time, what the students are doing in that time, as well as digital tools to help facilitate that. You can see that here in this slide. This is an example of the secondary level. In grades 1 through 4, we've also produced a daily schedule, knowing that classes, this will be a little bit different based upon the special area classes for students and when they occur. But each day, our students during the 4 hours in the AM will have a morning meeting, which will be looking at some social emotional learning topics and implementing the lessons that have been developed, reading, writing, a snack and activity break, mathematics, a special class for students and for the general ed teachers to do some prepping, an SEL read aloud or word study, and finally social studies or science instruction. So that gives you an example of what the day will look like every day in the morning. Then we know we're sort of taking a break, if you want to go to the next slide, for an afternoon, which will be filled with some additional instructional sessions, which will be 2 30-minute sessions where teachers will meet with the whole class as well as small groups and individual students. And 1 day a week will be assigned for grade level planning and curriculum work and professional development. So that gives you sort of a good sort of very high level view of what to expect from our teachers and for your students to be engaging in beginning on Monday.
Thank you, Mr. McGarry, Dr. McGarry. So in addition, we have the technology rollout that has been picked up at schools. In some cases, it's still in progress. And that's really going to help all students be working from a similar platform, depending on their grade level. For those students who did get iPads, they got that device, but there's an additional part of that device coming, and that's a hard case with a keyboard, which will really enhance the experience. Unfortunately, that order was delayed, and as soon as it's as soon as it's in, we're going to have a plan to for distribution of that. So that is our update on our restart. You can see that we're very focused on safety and instruction, and we have made a lot of progress in our planning throughout the summer. Dr. Kulikowski, I can't hear you, though you don't appear to be muted.
Thank you, Dr. Mass. I didn't hear the second thing you said.
It's okay.
Okay. Next on the instructional update, we have Matthew Levine and Noah Levy, 11th grade students from Scotch Plains Fanwood High Schools. They're going to share how they developed their podcast, the Matt Levine My Generation podcast, during the quarantine. Matt and Noah, you're up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Levine. Probably below you, at least on my screen, is Noah. We're both going to be going into our junior years. And so we have a podcast called the Matt Levine My Generation podcast, which is out on all platforms, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And one of like the first ideas for our podcast was unique young voices, because there's not enough of unique young voices kind of being heard, whether that may be within politics, within sports, etc. And so like that was kind of our idea for the podcast. And I'm a writer for the Fan Scotian, and I've worked very closely with Mr. Ketzner and Miss Staves. Shout out to them. And right before we went into quarantine, I actually held a political roundtable with now the graduated seniors. And from that time on, I've kind of thought about starting my own podcast. And when I was thinking about starting the podcast, Noah's one of my best friends, and he was like, "Hey, like every good podcast needs a co-host," and he was absolutely right about that. So we kind of hit the ground running. Our first guest was Matt Skolar, who's actually a freshman now at Davidson, and it's been a really cool experience. It's been a really fun passion project that, if it wasn't for quarantine, like we wouldn't have the opportunity to like do something like this. And like I couldn't be happier that we've kind of gone outside of our comfort zone. Like I've always been comfortable with like public speaking and things, but like a podcast was really a step outside of like my realm. So it's like very exciting for Noah and I to kind of just like start recording. And in the beginning, it was just interviews. Noah actually helped me like kind of explore the discussion-based conversations. And we actually started doing a segment called Spitballing with Sandro, which is with one of our good friends, Alessandro Frias, who is also going to be a junior at the high school. But it's been a really cool experience. And like I said, if you want to hear unique voices talking about topics, heavy topics too, like politics, we're talking about it every week now, school, going back to school. And if you want to hear young voices talking about that type of thing, our podcast is definitely for you. Noah, you want to add some stuff now? I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So the podcast is called the Matt Levine My Generation podcast, not the Matt and Noah My Generation podcast. Matt was planning on doing this by himself. He came to me looking for just advice, someone to, I don't know, help him out a little bit. And I thought I could help be a co-host, give a great dynamic. I feel like every good podcast has a co-host, a really good dynamic. And I felt like Matt and I have really good dynamic discussions about real world things. And it's been a great experience meeting new people, listening to different voices, different opinions. And it's just been great over quarantine.
And like, I want to say, if it kind of wasn't for Noah, I don't think the podcast would be where it is right now. We're 16 episodes in. And I don't think without like Noah's voice every week kind of balancing with my voice, we would have the same dynamic and the same success. And if you guys want to hear a great episode, one of our most recent episodes was with Dr. Mass, and that was an awesome experience for us. And if you want to hear about school and like really like what's going into all of this, because there's a lot of negativity out there on the social media platforms, and so be it. But like if you really want to hear like where all this is coming from and how important, how many details school and how we're going back to school, like everything that's going into going back to school, like that's a perfect episode to listen to. We also have a great episode from earlier this summer with the beat writer for the Brooklyn Nets, Alex Schiffer. And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. You know, we have a lot of cool discussions, and I hope you guys, if you guys are interested in listening to podcasts, will come along for the ride and listen with us as we watch football in the fall and as we get closer to the November election. So thank you guys for this opportunity.
Well, Matt and Noah, thank you for coming on this evening and being here part of our Board of Education meeting. I did get to listen to the podcast that you did with Dr. Mass, and it was excellent. It is just as good as listening to Mark Simone or anybody else who has an on-air interview type show. You're both very professional. You were great with asking the questions. Dr. Mass, you're an excellent guest on the podcast. And I hope I hear more from both of you. And I'm definitely going to listen to more of your podcasts. So thank you for taking your time to be here this evening.
Yeah, thank you
If
so
any
much.
other
We
board
appreciate
members,
it.
you're welcome.
I just
Any
want to
other
say
board
thank
members?
you. Well, I think Matt, I remember you speaking at the high school at the event against hate when we had that a couple, right? With that you spoke out. So I think you've been using your voice for years now, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for using your platform for positive. I haven't watched your podcast, but I'm glad Dr. McGarry put it in the chat. I'm definitely going to watch it. How often do you do it?
So we've been doing it weekly. The past 2 weeks, we haven't had a chance to record it, but we're thinking about recording one tomorrow, and then we're going to be recording ones weekly throughout the fall.
Okay. Thank you, Matt and Noah. I look forward to watching it.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment?
Karen, I'd like to make a quick comment, please. Matthew, Noah, I just want to say bravo. And one thing you said, Matthew, that's so impressive was how quarantine presents opportunity. So I want to really congratulate you on realizing the resilience and finding the resilience within you to say, what is in my control, what is not in my control, and what can I do to make the best out of a situation, not only for myself and my buddy, but for my community. And those skills and self-reliance and all of those good things are what we need now. So thank you for being a leader in our community.
Thank you.
Well said, Karen. Thank you. Anybody else wish to make a comment to Noah or Matt? All right. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate it. I look forward to hearing you again. Okay, next on the instructional update, we have Alina Puri, also an 11th grade Scotch Plains Fanwood High School student, and she's going to share how she developed her podcast, Ladies First, during the quarantine. Alina?
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Alina Puri. I'm an incoming junior at the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. And Ladies First was actually something I wanted to do last year, but I didn't really get the opportunity. And as soon as COVID came, I was like, this is the perfect time to develop my podcast. So it's all women-based. I interview solely empowering and inspiring women. And I've always been big on like women empowerment, and my whole family has. It's something we've always tried to push. So I like really wanted to focus on that. So basically every week I post every Wednesday. I interview really amazing women. I do doctors. I've done experimental filmmakers that are like based out of India. I've done different people in marketing. I've done people in fashion. So I've gotten to talk to a lot of different people and ask them about their professions, you know, how they got there, what you need to do to get there, you know, the qualities that a woman would need to have. to be in that field, or for some people, what it's like being in such a male-dominated occupation. Like, how do you get over that? How do you make sure that your voice is just as heard? And I've been able to like get advice from them and the advice that they would give to my younger female listeners. And it's really, really interesting. I've been getting a lot of people tell me like, wow, this was really helpful. And I've had a lot of people on the podcast that have told me like, I started doing one thing and I came into later years like totally changing my job. And I think it's something that a lot of younger people can relate to. So I think it was like a good way for listeners to be like, wow, like it's okay if I don't know what I want to do right now. So it's been really, really interesting for me personally just to hear from all of them. And I'm just so happy that I get to help other young women kind of hear advice from these amazing women and just, you know, decide what they want to do.
That sounds wonderful, Alina, and you have a wonderful speaking voice yourself.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
agree
you so much.
We need lots of women examples. And as you can see, our board is woman dominated at this
Yes,
time.
I love it.
Yeah, it wasn't always like this, but we have achieved. I'm so glad you're doing that, and thank you for taking your time to come and share that with us. It's a wonderful idea, and I'm finally glad that you were able to do it, although later than you originally set out to do. But everything happens for a reason. Everything happens in its time, and you know you will be heard. And I'm glad we're hearing you tonight. Does anybody have any comments for Alina? Ms. Bauer.
I just wanted to say it's a great year to be focusing, since this is the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote. And I was thinking that it would be another avenue of women to interview would be alumni from Scotch Plains, young alumni who are doing interesting things and not that far removed from what you're doing. So thank you for what you're shared with us this evening, and we really are proud of all of our students.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Ms. Boroff?
I'm going to echo what Stephanie said earlier, and I cannot wait to watch your podcast. I'm sorry that I haven't, and I am so glad that you brought it up tonight and you brought it to all of our attention. Obviously, more power to you. I'm super excited to watch it, and I'm so glad that you came on here to share it with us. Good for you, and for using your voice and for reaching out. Really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. And I'm definitely going to reach out to alumni. I really, really like that idea.
Well, continued success, Alina. We want to hear more from you in the future.
Mrs. Siriani?
I just thank you, Alina. You are so polished and professional. I could see you. I haven't watched the podcast, but I could see how you would be tremendously successful doing a podcast. I was just wondering how you come up with your who you interview. How do you decide?
Well, when I started it, I was like really interested in hearing from doctors. So I started from there. And then after that, I was like, well, I want to be able to talk to people that are in so many different fields, because, you know, like doctors aren't the only profession that people want to go to. So I was like, I started with like going with people in marketing and people in the fashion industry and Dr. Mass. And then I was like, well, what about people that are not just in the US? So then I was like, let me take this out more. And I was like, I found this amazing experimental filmmaker in India. And I was like, this will be really, really interesting. So I found them on LinkedIn and I was able to get in touch with them and they were thrilled.
Wow. You did a lot of hard work. That's really impressive. Thank you for sharing with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
It's very unique and interesting. Go ahead, Tanya.
Thank you. To echo what everyone else says, great job. I love the whole idea. And we're listening to your podcast, and where exactly what platforms can we listen to it? Is it on podcasts? Is it on Spotify? Can you just confirm that for us?
Yeah, so it can be found on Anchor, it can be found on podcasts, and it can also be found on Spotify. So if you look up Ladies First, Alina Puri, it'll come up.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Elena, thank you so much for coming out tonight.
So
Good luck.
Thank you for having me.
if I may, Dr. Kulikowski,
Oh, of course, Dr. Mast.
you know, it is absolutely fabulous to have students come to the board. I know it is the board's favorite thing to see the amazing things that our students are doing. And in meeting these students early this year, I was just so very impressed, similar to what Ms. Mitchell said, is that they really found a way to find the silver lining in this pandemic. And they pursued their passion and found a project that was not only interesting to them, but really enriches all of us. So delightful to have met you and to have been part of your podcast, but more to the point, just so very proud of the work that Noah and Matt and Alina are doing. So thank you for coming and sharing it with us tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Mast.
And Dr. Kulikowski, real quickly, in the 1600s, it was Isaac Newton who created calculus during the plague isolation. So perhaps one of our students who came on tonight is the next Isaac Newton. Just saying.
That would be
true.
lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. All right. So that was the third and final instructional update for this evening. They were all wonderful. And this brings us to the public comment portion. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please go to spfk12.org for your Zoom login information. In accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education, bylaw 0164 and 0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments. Maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. If you would like to make a public comment, go to spfk12.org for Zoom login information. When you call in and when you're brought up in the queue, please state your name and the town in which you reside. Please note, board members cannot respond to concerns regarding individual students or staff members. Such matters should be addressed with the superintendent's office. Ms. Broadbent, do we have a caller ready?
Yes, Dr. Kulikowski. Joe Moore-Tarullo. Joe, would you please unmute yourself?
Alrighty, hello everybody. How are we tonight? I want to thank everybody for on the board just to.
Joe, if I can just stop you for a minute, please state your full name and the town in which you reside.
Absolutely, I'm sorry about that. Joseph Mortarullo, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. I'm a lifelong resident, local business owner, and coached in town for about 25 years at the high school for the soccer team. And I'm now currently coaching at Rutgers University and own a small restaurant in town. I don't have to publicize that, but I just wanted to touch base tonight kind of quickly because I've heard some rumblings about some issues going on with the lighting of the fields and sort of, some negative comments being posted around on social media platforms and the like. And it's kind of disturbing to me. And I just wanted to touch base. I'm not normally an outward speaker like this, but I felt it kind of prudent because I've been a part of Scotch Plains Fanwood school system my entire life, pretty much. I went away for college for 4 years and then kind of returned to coach at a young age of 24 and stayed with the program up until about last year. one of the things I'd always hoped for as a player playing at Scotch Plains was to have lights. It's always the dream, right? To play Friday night lights, as they say in the football terms. But soccer, it's the same thing. Our biggest games of the year were always played under the lights, whether they be a county game or a state final. I was fortunate enough to play on the first state championship team in Scotch Plains way back in 1987. And I remember the night like it was yesterday, playing under the lights. It was always a big thing to travel down to Trenton, College of New Jersey now, and play there. So I just feel like the township really needs to kind of come together on this and really see the positive impact on the local community and make sure that we're kind of reaffirming that for everyone. There's a certain sense of community. I also sit on the redevelopment committee in Scotch Plains and trying to continue to push that moving forward as well. And I just think this is the exact type of thing, and exact type of progression that other towns had gotten a head start on Scotch Plains, and we're now catching up in terms of that technology. It's going to be a huge lift for the community to be able to have, evening soccer games and evening football games and have a crowd, and then let them spill into a downtown area that is, redeveloped and vibrant with things to do and places to go. And I think, I feel sad at times when I hear people come out negatively about things like this. And I just think it's a win-win. I do understand that there are some people that live in the immediate area that feel like they're going to be inconvenienced on some level. I live a block away from the high school fields, and I'll probably be able to see the lights out my window. And I don't know if it's really going to impact my life all that much. I'll just draw the shades if need be. I just wanted to take the time to thank you guys for pushing this forward and for making this impact. I know it wasn't an easy thing to get by, and I think it was a lot of hard work from a lot of people to make it happen. So I just want to say thank you, and we appreciate it. Economic Redevelopment Committee, local businesses, and all the same. So thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Martirullo. Appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Robin, do you have our next caller?
Dr. Kulikowski, our next caller is Colleen Giolinella.
Thank you.
Colleen, if you'd unmute yourself, please.
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can. Okay,
Say
perfect.
your name.
I just wanted to pop in and say thank you all so much. Colleen
Yes,
Gillinell,
say your name.
22 Concord Road, Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
No problem. I just wanted to pop in and say hello and thank our administrators and our teachers and our Board of Education members for the support that they've put in place for our children. We're very excited to start the school year. I know that the students are really missing school very desperately, and a lot of work went into making the spring as successful as it was. And this fall has been a tremendous undertaking. I know the work that goes into planning, and when you have to pivot at the last minute, that is something that can be really upsetting and very difficult for everybody involved. I do just want to say that as a community member and having been involved in the community in a number of different capacities, I am somewhat concerned about just the level of vitriol that's surrounding the conversation about schools reopening. My thoughts continue to be, in some private conversations I've had, is that we have to be careful that we don't get to a place where we can't walk back from things that are being said or written online. We are very fortunate to have a lot of the teachers that educate our students living in our community, and a great working relationship between community members and our schools. And I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that. We are right now experiencing significant inconvenience and a lot of frustration. Our teachers are feeling it, I'm sure. I know the administrators are feeling it, I'm sure. And our students, quite honestly, who are the most important people we're talking about here, are certainly experiencing frustration. But it's important that we continue to work together as a community and we stay focused on the goal, and that is providing the education that is best for our students. And the more we work toward that together, the stronger we will continue to be as a community. And I just, we're too great of a community to ever lose sight of that. So just maybe a little bit of a reminder to everyone.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Giulianella. Do you have something else?
That's it. I wish everyone a wonderful, safe, and healthy school year.
You too. Thank you so much.
Dr. Kulikowski.
Yes, Rob.
Matt Tibbles would like to make a comment.
Thank you.
Matt, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening. Matt Tibbles, Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
I just wanted to jump on what Joe was saying about the lights, if I could, for a minute. There are so many benefits to the lights, to this community, to all of our athletes, as well as band members and other events like Relay for Life and Little Leagues. And there's so many opportunities for our kids to play sports, but we have a lack of fields, which causes issues with practice time and other events. And the ability for parents who, there aren't too many people commuting to the city at the moment, but there are folks that are still going to work. And it does make it difficult to get home for early afternoon games. The early rounds of the county and state championship games are usually played around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And wouldn't it be great if we could play those games at 6:30, 7 o'clock and finished by 9, 10, so that parents could get home in time to make those games. Selfishly, as the president of the athletic boosters, this also would give us more opportunities for fundraising, providing concessions if possible during Corona and beyond, selling Raider gear and other things like that. So selfishly, it helps us, which in turn helps all of our student athletes and as well as the student community at the high school. So hopefully everything works out. I mean no disrespect to the folks that live next to the field. It seems like the lawsuit is more around process than the actual lights themselves. And hopefully we can work past that. I'm confident that the Board of Education will take the steps necessary to rectify any issues that brought on during construction. I'm sure they're not going to leave any issues or water or any of the other complaints that were going on last week's call. But I thank the Board of Ed for pushing this through and providing an environment for our kids to thrive. And like Joe said, there's nothing better than Friday Night Lights, which I'd love to see on October 2nd and watch our Raiders kick off their first season under the lights. Just something that the town's really excited about. So I just hope it can work out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Tibbles.
Okay, Dr. Kulikowski, Kathleen Viscardi has a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Kathleen. If you please unmute yourself, say your name and the town in which you reside.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kathleen Viscardi. I reside in Scotch Plains. And I would like to bring up a field hockey discussion for varsity and JV. A few questions. I would like to request a line item budget for 2019-2020 compared to 2020-2021. As we have a very condensed season, it's not clear how the costs can remain the same. Our field costs and officials costs, should they not be less for this year? As we're a pay-to-play sport in these unprecedented times are difficult financially for some families, how is the 2020-2021 budget not less than previous years? My understanding is that we have lost some players for financial reasons, not just the COVID-related reasons. I also want to ask, how is the Board of Ed and Athletic Department ensuring that field hockey girls are receiving equitable preseason practice and game time on turf versus grass as per Title IX requirements? As field hockey moved up a division due to their great season last year, it should be noted that all teams they play against, varsity and JV, practice and play on turf. Right now, the first week of preseason, our girls are on grass. Our girls should be able to prepare best they can for their season. What is the plan on sharing the turf with the football team or other teams? Why are they unable to practice at Ponderosa if being off campus is an issue? Bowling, golf, tennis, and other teams practice off campus. I'd like to see them be able to maximize their turf practice time during preseason and regular season. And then also, is there an equitable spend on girls and boys sports based on Title IX requirements? The district is spending around $1 million on school-sponsored sport as part of an over $100 million budget. How much of those monies are used for female sports and increasing female participation? And again, as a pay-to-play sport, what year will field hockey receive BOE support, even if it's partial support? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for all your comments, Ms. Viscardi.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I had a conversation earlier with another field hockey parent, and some of those very same questions came up, and we plan to follow up on those questions next week. So thank you, Mrs. Viscardi.
Thank you for adding that clarification, Dr. Mast. I appreciate that. Robin, can we have our next speaker?
The next speaker is Janine Viscardi. Janine, if you would please unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside.
Hi, I'm Janine Viscardi. I live in Scotch Plains. I'm actually the sister of Kathy Viscardi, who you just spoke to. I'm also speaking about field hockey. Want to just build upon what my sister spoke about. I guess I just want to build on that in terms of the pay to play status. And I just want to kind of fine tune some of the questions and try to understand what the pay to play status means in terms of overall participation for female athletes and field hockey. Has the school found it that the participation has declined since one has to pay for the sport, and that the cost, has that cost become so prohibitive that girls have moved away from it? I know there's been some ancillary gossip that, you know, girls have not looked to participate because they couldn't afford to, but I was wondering if there's anyone actually doing any tracking in the athletic office or elsewhere per Title IX to kind of further understand the implications of having a pay-to-play sport for our female athletes like that. I also had the budget question, but if you send it to my sister, I'm sure I'll see it, so that's fine. My other question also was about the turf. Bit perturbed that the girls cannot be on turf and are practicing on the grass, especially with all the rain we just had. They'll be trying out on a soggy grass field, so that'll be concerning. I also would like to understand how many female athletes Scotch Plains Fanwood has in total across all sports, school-sponsored athletically and pay-to-play, and how many male athletes they have in total, school-sponsored and pay-to-play, and try to understand then what how that budget is split based on gender. And then my final question is, when will middle school sports be pushed back and placed back in the middle schools? Children who participate in sports at a young age continue that participation throughout their schooling, develop better leadership skills, have improved grades, have better resiliency, better guidance, do better in college. I mean, these are all proven studies. So I guess my question then to the board would be, when are we placing these sports back in schools, because I've noticed just on my own in seeing how my older children have developed, the children who've started making these teams at our high school on the varsity level have tended to be kids who've either participated in travel teams or club teams. So there seems to be a socioeconomic disparity that's going on. So if someone can let me know, I'd appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Viscardi. Doug, how are we doing on time?
I was just going to say, Dr. Kolkowski, we've hit our 15 minutes for the first period.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. All right, that will conclude this portion of the public comment. We'll move on to the committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report this evening?
Dr. Kolkowski, if I can, before we do committee reports, just as a reminder for the public, because I'm sure we have some people watching and listening that aren't regular attendees. Just to be clear, if you signed up for public comment, there are 2 more chances throughout the meeting. We just limit each public comment period to 15 minutes. So we're going to continue with the meeting, but there will be more opportunities.
Thank you, Douglas.
I have a committee report, Karen.
Go right ahead, Ms. Brody.
I haven't typed it up yet to send it to everybody because we just had the meeting last night. We had a community relations committee meeting and we discussed a few items. We discussed a possible new club at the high school that we're going to do more research on. We also discussed the 2 new committees, the Student Activities and Athletic Committee, and also the Equity and Wellness Committee. And with that discussion, we agreed that both of those committees are in need, but that we would make sure that there was good structure to those committees, that in order so they operate properly, which includes our own committee, which we want to create more structure with the PTA and other community members, not members, but community groups, and especially the PTA, because we as a school district work so closely with them. And we will, and we're going to start to develop some communication plans. And we are going to reach out to the PTA Council and set up a meeting with them. And one important thing that we are going to do is we're going to set ourselves up with a structure of meeting dates that similar to finance and facilities. And so that way we're on a more structured schedule as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Anybody have any questions for Deb? Okay, are there any more committee reports? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody saying they have a report. So then we'll move along to letters to the board. There were a total of 57 emails received from the public to the Board of Education, and the appropriate administrator has responded. Next is the superintendent's report. Dr. Mast. Dr. Mast.
You're muted.
Muted. Thank you. So I would, 1S is out of district placements. I would like to move that the Board of Education approves the out of district placements that are listed. One is a change of placement in the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved. Winkler.
Thank you, Ms. Winkler. Is there a second?
Second, Brody.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Is there any question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
And next is 1 OBB. I would like to move that the Board of Education approves the SPFEA memorandum of agreement regarding coaches for the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Winkler.
Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Winkler.
Boroff.
Ms. Boroff, you seconded. Thank you. Is there any question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
Next, I'd like to move that the Board of Education approves the superintendent's recommendations for the personnel on the personnel report that we discussed in exec this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Winkler.
Thank you, Ms. Winkler. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Is there any question or discussion? Mrs. Saradaki, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Winkler,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer,
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff,
Yes.
Mrs. Brody,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
I abstain.
Mrs. Suriani,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Mast, and thank you, Ms. Saradaki. Okay, this brings us to our second of the 3 public comments. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please go to spfk12.org and go there for your Zoom login information. In accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Bylaw 0164-0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comment, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. So if you would like to make a public comment, please go to spfk12.org to go for your Zoom login information. Callers, when you are brought up in the queue and you are ready to speak, please state your full name and the town in which you reside. But please note, board members cannot respond regarding concerns of individual students or staff members. Such matters would be addressed by the superintendent's office. Ms. Broadbent, do we have our next caller?
Yes, Dr. Kulikowski, Amanda Hughes.
Robin, do we have a next caller? Thank you.
Amanda, if you please unmute yourself and give us your full name and the town in which you reside.
Sure. Amanda Hughes, Scotch Plains.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm very confused about talking about sports when we're not even in school and we're not even able to social distance with the most important thing, which is school. So very confused about that. I agree that we want lights. I agree that we want late games. I agree that we should have women in sports and all of that, but very confused about that with school. I know we have talked about things being fair and equitable. So right now, I'm not sure how many of you have heard, but a lot of people are sending their children to private school. That is not fair and equitable, what's happening. Because we can't go to public school, and a lot of us want our children to be able to go to school, social distancing, of course, wearing masks. Many people are sending their children to private school, which means the people who can afford to, not fair and equitable. I am so glad to hear that certain things we have been saying are being heard, but I don't feel like all of it has been. I don't feel like all of it has been taken seriously. The statement last time we were on about allergies, that's the reason we can't have outside tents right now for schooling. Why have we had recess? Where allergies? If people don't want to go to school, they can do remote, just like always. All remote shouldn't even be an option. I mean, look at what they're doing in China right now and in other areas of the state. We need to find solutions and not just accept and take months of doing this. Something that just came out today about Westfield. The district will be installing bipolar ionization ventilation systems in classrooms. The units will enhance the existing ventilation system and use oxygen from outside to deactivate bacteria, mold, and viruses, including the COVID virus, said Michael, who chairs the board's facilities committee. Solutions. I understand that we are all trying to find HVAC solutions and all this, but it's so long and our children are suffering. So I wish that, I'm still upset that our choice was taken away, but I understand what you're saying about the HVAC. The last time we were on the call also, a counselor had mentioned, hopefully we go back in November. It did not make many of us feel very secure that we will be going back at all this year. All the schools around us, not all, a lot of the schools around us are going back. I want to feel confident to be able to tell my son that he's going to make friends this year. Not over online, not with people writing comments like they did last year, sending him to very inappropriate sites through the remote schooling, but actually going to school. I don't know if you guys have seen what's happening in China, what they're doing, sanitizing, spraying, all this before they go inside. There are solutions. So I would love to hear more of immediate solutions and not just things, who knows how long, whenever it's safe. It's very safe right now, the state, not gone, but the death toll is very, very, very low. Nothing is ever going to be completely safe. I'm just going to finish my thought really quickly.
Thank you.
We all want our kids to be safe. This world is not completely safe. Right now, it's very, very low, and I hope that you take that into consideration and hear us.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hudes.
Dr.
Robin,
Kulikowski, the next public comment is by Danielle Wildstein.
Thank you.
Danielle, please unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside.
Danielle Wildstein, Scotch Plains.
Go ahead, you're ready.
Well, I want to first start out by thanking Evan for answering our questions. I really appreciate that. I got your email and I shared it with our group. So I want to start out by thanking you for that information. I did have some questions regarding some of the answers, specifically EI Associates and their bid. I know that they're working right now in evaluating all of the schools. I'm wondering when they're going to be finished and how long it's going to take the district to review their recommendations before that report is given to the public. I also have a question about ESM Corp, and I know it's on the agenda for tonight to approve a $12,000 spend for their proposal. And I'm wondering, I've seen both proposals, but I'm wondering what the difference is between the two companies and why we have a second HVAC company that's coming in and why ESM Corp's proposal was dated September 2nd, weeks after EI Associates. And then I'm wondering if there's any other of these HVAC experts that we're going to be getting proposals from. Because as Amanda had mentioned, you know, we want to start moving forward, as I've heard that you do as well. And the EI Associates is giving a list, I'm sure, of recommendations that we could hopefully execute against. But I think we're really just wondering what the time frame is here. You know, the November 20th date was given, and we have asked, you know, just for some clarity around that, because it seems somewhat arbitrary right now, not having anything to back into. And I understand that you need to see recommendations from EI Associates before you can give us a timeline. So again, I'd just like to know when we're going to be able to see that report from EI Associates. And the second thing is moving on to communication. One of the questions that Evan had asked, or answered, I should say, on behalf of the board is about regular communications. We had asked for formal communications to be sent from Dr. Mast on a weekly basis. It's been over 2.5 weeks since the parent community has gotten an email update from Dr. Mast. Her last email was on August 23rd. And a lot's happened since then, and I do appreciate this meeting being inserted in before the September Board of Ed meeting, but when are parents going to get another formal update from Dr. Mast? And what does regular communication mean? Because that was given as an answer. Can we get communications on a weekly or every 2 weeks from Dr. Mast? Some regular continuous communication with a timeline behind it would be really helpful so that weeks don't go by, because we're already now going into the second week of September, and things can be severely delayed. And so I'm wondering what the communication plan looks like from Dr. Mast, communicating what we know, what we don't know, what's been done, what's happening. Just know that parents would really appreciate hearing on a regular basis and not sporadic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Danielle.
Dr. Kulikowski, the next public comment is by Rachel Nudell Feldman.
Thank you.
Rachel, if you'd unmute yourself, state your full name and the town in which you reside, please.
Yes, hello, good evening. Rachel Nudell Feldman from Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for inserting this meeting. As a parent, we really appreciate any updates and any information. Just echoing on what the two last parents have said, in terms of the HVAC evaluation and in terms of moving forward to reopen the schools, I wanted to know if any consideration has been given to prioritizing evaluating and remediating the elementary schools in the district. And the reason that I ask that is because as we all know, it's no surprise that the youngest of students have the biggest issues with learning remotely. And so I was wondering if any consideration had been given to sort of, prioritizing getting the little kids back to school sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Del Velman.
Dr. Kulikowski, the next comment is by Mary Dukran.
Thank you.
Mary, please unmute yourself, state your full name and the town in which you reside.
Mary Dukran, Scotch Plains, New Jersey.
Thank you.
I am switching gears from the sports conversations and slightly from the reopening to talk about marching band. I'm a parent of a high school senior. Forgive me, I'm going to read from this to keep to the 3 minutes. So I'm a parent of a high school senior in the color guard, and as a marching band parent, I've been a volunteer for the past 7 years. So I have an older child who went through the program as well. So when we first heard the district's plan to move forward with fall sports, we were surprised given the known risks for potential virus spread in contact sports. However, we appreciated the thoughtfulness and care that was being taken to provide the athletes with some opportunity to play, however limited it might be. We are hopeful that the marching band might be given the same opportunity until we received a letter from Mr. Millett on August 15th, which postponed their season indefinitely, and in his words, to a time in the school year when you will be able to perform safely. Now, I interpret that phrase to mean until there's a vaccine. Realistically, I'm sure you might agree, I don't see that happening during this school year. Meanwhile, in a neighboring district, their school board's decision was to cancel all extracurriculars with the exception of athletics and marching band. Their band directors were given the opportunity to develop creative plans for a safe, limited season while following the New Jersey guidelines for athletics. Many other districts around the state are doing the same, like Glen Ridge, Kearney, and Park Ridge, to name a few. They're using bell covers to minimize aerosols and a mix of smaller in-person ensembles and virtual performances. I've been a proud parent in this district since 2005. And in that time, there have been very few occasions when I've felt compelled to speak out on behalf of my children. The last time was in 2018 when my oldest daughter graduated and the marching band was omitted from the yearbook. Although inadvertent, it was a huge snub for my daughter and the band, and one that she will remember every time she opens her yearbook to reminisce in the years to come. At that time, we were told that the board would not support the cost of an addendum to the yearbook. Will another child of mine have nothing in the yearbook to show for her years of hard work and dedication to marching band? While the band is on hiatus this fall, I urge you to use this time to observe what other districts are doing. Get creative. Allow our band directors to get creative and give our band the same consideration and support you've given to athletics by allowing them to have a marching band season this year. And I also want to close by saying thank you for giving me this opportunity, and also thank you all for your time. As a parent of a senior and one who's graduated, I can appreciate how much has gone into this year and all the struggles that you face as a board. So I do appreciate that. But I just implore you not to forget about the marching band because they feel forgotten. And, you know, I think we can make it work for them. I don't want this to be the end. They're losing their Disney trip. They're losing so much. So please just, I hope you'll think about that, and I hope there's a way we can make it work for them. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight, Ms. Dukran.
Dr. Kulikowski, Eric Felon has a public comment.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric, please unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside.
Hi, Eric Felon, Scotch Plains. So first I want to, I just want to provide my support to all the teachers that have gone out on a limb and done a lot for the community to help our kids. I know they're going above and beyond, these teachers. I'm proud of them, and my, you know, I can't say enough words for all the teachers that are putting themselves out and, you know, also risking their own families and everything to teach our own kids. But I have to, you know, the past few commenters here, I just want to kind of tail off of some of the sentiment that they said and start from what Joe mentioned earlier with the Friday night football lights. I'm a big supporter of the football lights. I also was in a marching band when I was in high school, and I know that feeling, what it's like to be under the lights. I think management and timing of everything, it's a little disheartening thinking that, yes, budget was probably put aside for these lights before the COVID had come, and then COVID came, and I think we should have kind of did some temporary sacrifices and not said no to the lights, because I think the lights would be a great addition to the school, but maybe put that off to next year, because we all know that tax dollars and budget is going to be really tight this year. We have all the iPads and Chromebooks that we're giving out, et cetera. So that's just one comment I want to make is we need to start thinking about where we're spending our money and what can we put off to a future year and spend the time and finances on things that matter now. And going to football and sports and everything, I fully support the kids getting outside and spending time to have some real physical social interaction, which is what also confuses me and challenges me on why we can't have, and I'm going to bring this up again, is the outdoor classroom. I totally get and understand that we can't be in the schools at this time, and it may or may not be safe, and there's a lot of uncertainty around that right now, and I get that, and I support that, not being in the school right now. But I feel we're missing a big opportunity right now in these warm months, September and October, to at least allow, even if we can, 1 or 2 days a week, especially what one of the prior callers said with the younger elementary. You have kids that are just starting in the school system that are kindergartners or first graders, and you have kids that maybe have just moved into Scotch Plains. They don't know anybody. And having the ability to have some real social interaction, and not only that, but to meet their teachers physically. So now when you do go online remote, you can kind of put it all together and really feel and build upon that relationship that you started physically. Time is almost gone. It'll be cold out in a couple of months. Me, honestly, I don't feel that we're going to be in the school anytime soon. I don't feel we'll be in the school till maybe after spring break if we're lucky. So if the administration can do something to put and allow kids, at least in the younger grades and other grades, into the fields at the school to do 1 or 2 days a week of class, outdoor classroom, it's beneficial to their mental health. It's beneficial to their social skills. I don't understand. We can have sports, and I think we should have sports. I'm not saying not to have it, but we should also have band.
That's your time. If you could just finish your thought.
Okay, we should also have band, and like the other call said, and we should also have outdoor classroom. Let's not kind of, just focus on sports. I think everybody should be inclusive to this.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Fallon. Doug, I take it that that's the end of our 15-minute window for this portion of public comment?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. So we'll resume this.
Before we move on, I just want to make a couple of comments based on what people brought to the mic. So one of the questions regarding the difference between the two services that we're working with to review our ventilation. The EI Associates, that's an engineering firm, and we're working with a mechanical engineer who's looking at all of our units to make sure that they're operational and they're functioning as they should. The environmental hygienist, he actually does air quality samples in a cross section across classrooms in the district. The two actually work hand in hand for us to have the best understanding of our ventilation. And in fact, the reason why there was a delay is that we first discussed it with the EI Associates to make sure that the work wouldn't be contrary, but rather that it would give us a whole helpful picture. And in that, there was also a question around regular communication. So thank you for acknowledging that this board meeting was an effort to do that. I would like to highlight that there was a very big document that I've been working on with my team of frequently asked questions. That's now on the district website on the restart plan. So that was another ongoing piece of work that we were doing. And in addition, in asking for regular communications, our next board meeting is September 30th. And I'm very optimistic that we will have helpful feedback from both of our consultants, which will give us a clearer vision for the path forward, and certainly prioritizing of how to start bringing students back. That is our commitment. We all want the same thing. Thank you, Dr. Kulikowski.
You are welcome, Dr. Mass. Thank you for all the points of clarification. Okay, then moving on to our business functions. Mrs. Saradaki.
Yes, I'm asking for the board's approval on just a few items tonight.
The first item, 1 BUS, is the Environmental Safety Management Company Corporation. And that their proposal is for $12,500 for determining the extent to which representative classrooms meet criteria of adequate ventilation, and possibly up to $5,250 at the rate of $175 an hour for the various items listed, which is training on transportation, bus cleaning, technical support meetings, indoor air quality and mold testing as needed, custodial cleaning procedures review, just to make sure that we are as current with those items as we can be. Excuse me. 2 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve the services of Camden County Educational Services Commission for consultant for communications on regarding COVID-19. It's a communications manager's name is Ms. Lori Perlow. Both of these, the funding would come from the Union County CARES grant. 3 BUS, I'm asking for the board to improve the individual evaluation costs. This is something that we approve each year so that if individuals want to have outside evaluations, Mrs. Rabimbus has some information to give them about what costs are permitted. 4 BUS, we have related services for creative speech in the amount of $18,000 for extended school year 2020. And 5 BUS, Frontline Education. This is a Frontline Education quote for school nursing management subscription. And what this allows us to do is to have everyone, all staff, before they come into the building, report on any COVID symptoms so that we have that information, the nurses have that information. Are there any questions?
Motion. So moved, Brody.
Thank you, Ms. Brody.
Second, Boroff.
Thank you, Ms. Boroff. Any question or discussion on the items from Mrs. Saradaki? Mrs. Bauer.
I just had a couple of questions. I wanted to ask the Camden County Educational Services Commission, have we worked with them before?
No.
And are the prices that they're giving us are competitive with the other educational services commissions we've used in the past?
Well, they did, when we sign a contract with them, we can contract with all their other services, which you'll see on their contract that was provided, but we won't be using those services. They're too remote from us to be able to effectively use their services. The service we will be using is for the strategic communications person.
I see. Okay, and I just had...
If I may, Mrs. Saradaki, they're also the only Ed Services Commission that provides communications consultants.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
And I worked with them in a previous district.
Thank you for that clarification. And I had one other question. Wait a minute. Oh, Frontline is, so do the staff then go on every day? Is this an automated system they go on?
Yes, they'll go on every day. It's an app that will actually work on their phone if that's how they choose to do it.
Okay, thank you.
And it's something Mr. Patuco and I both explored, and I think for this year it'll be really helpful. If something like this is needed going forward, I think that at that time, you know, take the time over the year to look at possible other But this is what we use for our absence management system and for our professional development system. And they already have all the data for all of our staff. So it's just a matter of adding one more system.
Mr. Patucci, do you have anything to add to that?
Mrs. Saradaki mentioned some of it, but the way it works is that it's a daily health screening for staff. If they have a smartphone, they can use the app, which makes it very easy and quick. If not, they can use the website. Once it's complete, they'll receive a confirmation. Then the completion data is sent to specific users. So say it's the principal and the nurse of the building, so they can get that data and see if anybody needs further attention or not. So it's all automated and set up so we can have it routed to the appropriate people. We'll have a live dashboard, so we'll be able to tell who submitted it, who's passed, who's failed, who hasn't completed it, and who we need to follow up on. And as Ms. Saradaki said, the data is already in because we use these systems for absence management. So we just have to move it over to this component. So it makes it a lot smoother. The next day, the survey will automatically appear. So after the day finishes, it'll be automated. So the next day's survey will appear, and then they'll have to complete it for the next day. We can send reminders out if we want to send a daily reminder for people to complete it. And then staff, as Ms. Saradaki said, are already familiar with Frontline. So it's just adding to our suite that we already have.
So they're supposed to activate this or do the survey before they enter the school building or once they arrive?
No, they're supposed to do it before. So they'll be getting, instructions on that, but it'll have to be a certain amount of time before they come. So hopefully as they're coming in, the secretary or whoever is assigned there would be able to know as they sign in that it was done. If it's not done, they will have to complete it immediately at that time before they can proceed.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we've been motioned, seconded, and had some questions answered. So all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Saradaki.
You're welcome.
That brings us to board policies. Ms. Winkler?
Thank you. Tonight, I'd like to ask that the board, or I'd like to move that the board approve second and final reading for the adoption of the following policies that we discussed at our last meeting. Policy 1648, Restart and Recovery Plan. Policy 1560 for remote learning. Policy 1651 for 14-day quarantine for employees upon return from travel. Policy 1648.03 Restart Recovery Plan and full-time remote instruction. And Policy 1649 Federal Families First COVID-19 Response Act.
Thank you, Ms. Winkler. Is there a second?
Second, Suriani.
Thank you, Ms. Sariani. Is there any question or discussion on the policies? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Is there any new board business? Other board business, we have OBB2. Are there any liaison reports?
I have one, Karen.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Soriani.
I'll just give a quick update on the Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation. We haven't had another official meeting since the board meeting at the end of August. However, I don't know if, because I wasn't at that meeting, just to say that we wrapped up our listening tour, which constituted a number of public meetings on various topics, such as policing, equity and diversity in the schools. There were a lot of community participants. And now we are going to take all of the feedback and information that we got and meet as a group and decide what we can implement and how to move forward. We are in the midst of scheduling our visioning meeting. So the group will get together and talk about, again, what our plans are moving forward and integrating and implementing everything that we learned in the listening tour. And that's my update.
Thank you, Ms. Soriani. Is there anybody else?
Garden State Coalition of Schools is having their meeting at the end of the month. And on September, wait a minute, I had it here.
The 30th.
On the 30th, and the scheduled guest speaker is Debbie Cuernavaca, who's the Deputy Chief of Staff for Governor Murphy. So if anyone's interested, you can let me know and I'll share the information.
That's the one that's at 3:30 p.m. online?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I know New Jersey school boards, I'm not the liaison, but I know there is a meeting next week on Wednesday, if anybody's interested, again, online at 6:30. We just got an email prior to coming into this meeting, so check it out if you're interested in attending that meeting.
Yep, already registered.
Oh, good. Me too. I spoke with Doug Reinstein for the President's Council, and we're trying to come up with a date that's mutually agreeable with everybody's president of the boards of education for the surrounding towns. So hopefully by our next meeting, we should at least have a date set if we don't have the meeting already. Does anybody have any other liaison committee information? Okay, then we'll move on to 3 OBB. Student Activities and Athletic Committee. I'd like to move that the Board of Education establishes the Student Activities and Athletic Committee. Can I have a second?
Second, Borough.
Thank you, Ms. Borough. Any questions or discussion? This is the committee that we mentioned in exec and that Ms. Brody spoke about in her report earlier today for community relations. Okay, seeing nothing. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And also in exec, we had discussed the fact that we need a chairperson, and Mr. Evan Murray has volunteered to be the chairperson of the Student Activities and Athletic Committee. And we can have some board members on the committee as well. So think about serving on this committee. And thank you, Mr. Murray, for being the chairperson. And for OBB, we have the Equity and Wellness Committee. And I make the motion to move that the Board of Education establishes the Equity and Wellness Committee. Can I have a second?
Moved.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any question or discussion? Okay, this is the second of the 2 committees that was discussed earlier in exec and by Ms. Brody. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And I believe Ms. Tanya Williams, you have showed interest in becoming the chairperson for this committee. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And again, we can have some committee members, Amy Winkler and Amy Boroff have also shown interest in this committee, but Tanya will serve as its first chair. Ms. Bauer, you were interested in this as well?
I'm willing to serve on either one or both. I'm interested in both of them, so whatever works out.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Bauer. All right. And so that completes the other board business section of the agenda and brings us to the third and final public comment. So if you would like to make a public comment, please go to spfk12.org and go there for the Zoom login information. In accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education Bylaw 0164-0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments. There's a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the public comment, speakers address the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. If you would like to make a public comment, please go to spfk12.org for the Zoom login information. Please note, board members cannot respond regarding concerns of individual students or staff members. Such matters should be addressed with the superintendent's office. Ms. Broadbent, do we have a call already?
Yes, Dr. Kulikowski, Doreen Balbuena.
Thank you.
Doreen, please unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside. Doreen?
She did not unmute yet.
Can you unmute yourself? Thank you. Okay, we will come back to Doreen. Just put your hand up in the queue if you'd like to make a comment. Next, we have Laura Melendez.
Hi.
Laura, your full name and the town in which you reside, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Melendez Bailey, and I reside in Fanwood. And I wanted to, as a parent of color, commend the administration for taking steps to finally address diversity and inclusion issues in our schools. I myself have contacted the district several times over the past few years when we've experienced racial issues in our schools, and we all know that it's not being isolated. So I wanted to say thank you. I am encouraged by the training that was mentioned before. I am encouraged by the focus that is included in the Restart Plan, by the creation of a Wellness and Equity Committee. And I hope that my kids can start seeing the impact of these measures and these plans soon in the form of diversity infused not only in the curriculum, but in the media that they use, and they start seeing themselves reflected all over the school. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melendez.
Our next caller is Gina Berry. Hi, Gina, if you'd please unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside.
Hi, my name is Gina Berry and I live in Fanwood. So my question is, during the board meeting on August 27th, there was a curriculum report. So I do have some follow-up question if someone can answer those for me. So the section that talked about race equality and social justice update, there was a part that said that removal of barriers to participate in the AP courses. So what I'd like to know is what barriers were removed. The second question is talks about revision of how recommendations are made for the accelerated level classes. So I want to know what those revisions were. And my third question is, as far as the QUEST program is concerned, they talked about the 7th and 8th graders self-nominating themselves, but I'd like to know, what about the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders? How will you determine which of these students will participate in the program? How do you select them? How will the parents know? And at what point will that information go to parent? And then my last comment or question is that when I look on the BOE website, the BOE meeting minutes are not up to date. Like the last one was from, I think it was May 28th. So I would like to see these minutes up to date, like as within 2 weeks at least, because the public needs to know information as soon as possible, not months later. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Berry.
At this time, there are no more hands raised, Dr. Kulikowski.
Okay, and Doreen did not come back?
She did not.
Okay, thank you for handling that. Doug, how far are we into the 15?
Well, if there's no more comments, I think we can call an end to this public comment.
Excuse me, Dr. Kulikowski, now there's a hand raised.
See, that's why I asked.
He takes the care.
Go ahead.
Michael Novello.
Okay.
Hi, please unmute yourself. Say your full name and the town in which you reside.
Yes. Hi, Michael Novello, Scotch Plains. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time. Two comments actually. One on the whole learning experience. I have 3 children in the school district, older children who I felt in the spring, like most parents probably, that they didn't really learn a lot. And I'm just hoping in the fall that we get to some structure where the children will be educated at least 6 hours a day instead of meetings, lessons thrown on a board and requiring the children to keep up on that, and Zoom meetings that never occur. It just felt very dysfunctional to me working home the whole time. I felt I was online all day long and my children were sleeping in because no teachers were attending the Zooms, and it was very dysfunctional, to be honest with you. So I'll leave it at that. I'm hoping that the fall is going to be a better start with some 6 to 7 hours a day of instructional learning for our children. My next comment is I'm going to pile on the pay-to-play sports with field hockey. 3 girls who play field hockey. Eldest daughter was the first to go to school to play field hockey, so I have a vested interest in seeing this program to succeed. A lot of my questions are around the payment. If we're having a shortened season, why do we pay our coaches full fare? You know, corporate America doesn't pay you if you don't go to work. I'm just wondering, and I'm sorry to be so blunt, but you know, we're only playing half season. Why do we have to pay the full amount? And why do we have to pay that earlier this year than any other year? I feel like, to be honest, there's a grab to get funding. And I feel like this season is going to be canceled after we pay. So I have a lot of concerns around that. My children still want to play. So I'm kind of forced to do it because it's pay to play. Why do they have to play on grass when everyone else gets to play on turf? Pile on that from the previous. And I don't understand, in the 4 or 5 years we've been dealing with field hockey, and I've listened to the field hockey board, I truly don't understand why we can't see the full financing for sports. No one has given, or I've never seen, a full year's spending on what sports get what money. Because I just, you know, I know we have Title IX. I'm just feeling like the girls in certain aspects get the shorter end of the stick, and I don't think it's fair. So I'll leave it at that for you guys to try to figure that out. But I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest with you, with the way that the athletic director is handling this year's sports in a pandemic, forcing people to pay ahead of time for sports programs that may never come to fruition. Almost in a grab to capture funding for maybe some other programs, in my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Novello. Robin, are there any more calls?
Yes. Laura Benoit. Hi, Laura. If you please unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside.
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Benoit and I live in Scotch Plains. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to the board and the superintendent. As I said in previous calls, you know, we are pleasantly surprised with the board and the superintendent talking about racial injustice. And since then, the different measures that we've seen from the restart plan, some bias training and so forth, and different measures in terms of trying to pave the way to create a more equal environment from an academic standpoint for the students, as well as more diversity within the administrative staff to show reflections to our future generations of what the real world is. And we're thankful for that, and we look to continue working with the board and the district for future measures to better our community.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Benoit.
Matt Giannisio would like to make a comment. Hi, Matt. If you'd unmute yourself, say your full name and the town in which you reside.
All right, it's Matt Giannisio in Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. I just want to introduce myself as not only a teacher in this district, but also a resident of the town who has two daughters who attend these schools. It's taking a lot right now for me to do this, but I think it's much needed. Dr. Mask, I need to commend you on the decision that you made extremely early. And I commend you in the fact that you made a decision and you didn't follow any footsteps of neighboring towns, which gave a lot of people in the community an opportunity to plan ahead for what was coming. I understand from a parent side and a teacher side that this situation is not easy for anybody, and I do understand that. From the educational side of things and my teacher input here, I totally agree that the remote model, as far as I'm concerned, gives our students the best learning experience possible because every student's experiencing the same learning experience every single day. For us to go to school and have half the class there and half the class remote, I don't consider that to be a great option whatsoever. So I'm looking at this from an educational standpoint, saying that every student is getting the same opportunity to learn at the same time. Dr. Mass, I think your hiring as our superintendent has been one of the best decisions the school district has ever made. I've been here for 16 years and I've experienced many things, and it's taking a lot for me to come on here, but I feel like somebody from the teaching staff and the key teaching community needs to finally step up and say this to the public. We are all in this situation together. We all need to start working together. So instead of 4 days before school starts questioning why decisions are made, can we please start putting all our energy into how our kids are going to move forward and continue learning? I thank you for your time, and I thank you all that are on my screen right now for every single thing you do for us as a teaching staff, as well as us as a community. And Dr. Mast, you have my support like you wouldn't believe. And I know a lot of my colleagues who aren't speaking right now, I'm speaking for them as well. We are all behind you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Genasio.
Dr. Kulikowski, just for the record, we are past the 15 minutes at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sylvester. I appreciate that. So that will conclude the public comment portion then. We have some upcoming meetings. The next one is our Wednesday, September 30th, regular public meeting. At this time, it's TBD, to be determined, but possibly it will be live streamed online. And then October 15th and 29th, November 12th and 19th, and then December 17th. At this time, do we have any remarks for the good of the order? Ms. Brody?
I just wanted to say what a great job the students did tonight and how innovative and creative and how motivating they were. So I just want to publicly thank them for that.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Ms. Bauer?
I just wanted to mention that I know I shared with the board, but members of the public can also sign up for the workshops that are coming up in October every Wednesday afternoon. I think they're from 3 to 5 on diversifying the teacher workforce. And it's being sponsored by the New Jersey Department of Ed, the colleges of education across the state of New Jersey, and this convening happens every year. And this year the virtual host is Rutgers. And it's a series. The first night is a keynote. There's an excellent keynote speaker. And then the next 2 Wednesday afternoons are breakout sessions with a variety of topics around recruitment, retention, and instructional strategies. And then the final week is a kind of conclusion of a panel of current students who are preparing to be teachers, novice teachers, and alum, more tenured teachers. And that will be facilitated by the keynote speakers. So that's something that people might be interested in attending. And I think it's great. A number of board members are interested as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Is there anybody else that has a remark for the good of the order? Mrs. Winkler?
At our last meeting, I don't know how well the sound works. I've been told that if I'm not holding this, no one hears me. At our last meeting, I made a point of thanking our educators, our teachers, our supervisors, our principals for all of the work that they've been doing, jumping through flaming hoops, trying to make this school year so much better than last spring, and trying to bring things together for all of our students. But I feel remiss that I didn't mention a lot of the other people in our district, our grounds people, our custodial people, our office staff, our nurses, we just have so many people who've been working so hard all summer to try to bring this together and to make things better for our students, to make things safer, to prep for the coming year. And I just wanted to make sure that we put out a thank you to them as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Ms. Soriani?
Again, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm not sure whether this was mentioned, but I want to thank Dr. McGarry for all of his posts on social media. I started following him, and I read your tweets, Dr. McGarry, daily, and there's such a positive energy behind them and what's going on in the district. So I just want to encourage other people to follow him, and thanks for being such a positive and energetic addition to our district.
going to jump in and second that. I was actually going to say, I don't know if we've actually officially had a welcome to Mr. McGarry publicly. So I was going to share the same because I think that, we have the SPF Proud account on Twitter that we like to share information, but I think really hearing a personal view of things from Ms. McGarry is so helpful and refreshing in a way. And so I think as we start this new school year, as much when we go into it, it's nice to have that connection too. So I do welcome people to join in the conversation. And then, I want to, say to everyone, we're almost at our opening day. And, as a parent, I'm excited. I'm really proud of the work that our teachers have done, our admin and our students. I mean, they're strong kids and they're doing their part and we're all coming back. So thank you for taking this journey along with us as it's late, but good night. And thank you.
I just wanted to ask, are you also doing the hashtag SPF Proud with your amazing tweets?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
I would like to say today was a day of the FAQ publication where Mrs. Rabimbis also sent out FAQs for the special ed department. I think you mailed them directly to those parents, and that was a document also long in the making because it really it's as Dr. McGarry said, we're all in some ways kind of building the plane while it's flying, and we're really giving it our best effort to get these questions answered and to communicate clearly. So that's one thing. And also just I'd like to give a shout out to all of the work that is happening this week. We have one more day of all of the professional development. With Dr. McGarry's leadership, there has been just 4 days of really valuable professional development that's going to position us well moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. I was thinking the same thing, that all week our teachers have been back to school already, so to speak, doing all the professional development, where our students go back to school virtually on Monday. And some of my friends that have children who are going to schools virtually that have already started, put on their mask, got their backpacks, stood on the front porch, took their back to school pictures and went back in the house to go online to go to school. And, it's different this year. It's very unique. It will pass and we'll get back into the classrooms as soon as we possibly can. All right, if there is any more comments.
I think Dr. McGarry has a comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank
Dr.
you
McGarry.
so I just wanted to say thank you to the board members who were able to greet our new staff during our new teacher orientation, as well as Dr. Kowalkowski for participating in our first ever virtual convocation this past Tuesday, and for your kind words and support for everybody on our staff.
Thank you, Dr. McGarry. It was an honor to be asked and to be part of it again this year. It wasn't a big convocation like last year, but the virtual was wonderful and all the speakers were impressive. And I'm sure that everybody that participated later on that day in their various groups had a wonderful time. Okay, if there are no further comments, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm moved, we're off.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Second.
Who was that?
Evan.
I didn't hear who made the second.
Evan.
I did as well as Amy Winkler, so it was kind of a tie.
Whichever.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? You're opposed? All right, motion carries. Good night, everyone.